a situation down where we shut down I-64 eastbound due to an expansion joint failure that we became aware of around 10 o'clock this morning. We sent our bridge repair construction superintendent down right immediately. He went down and assessed the situation. He called me. He said this metal plate, approximately two foot wide, is about ready to come out in traffic from one lane to the other. Right then I told our construction superintendent to close the bridge down, all eastbound traffic. We don't want anybody getting hurt. We don't want a safety issue. So that happened. Of course, it's a major volume interstate, one of the busiest in the state, one of the busiest stretches in the state, and we don't take that lightly. But I think when you see the photos of what we've got to deal with down there, you'll understand why we did what we did. If you want to cue up the photos. This is after we started doing the repairs, after the interstate was shut down, and we started getting in there and taking some of the concrete out. If you want to go to the next one, that looks like the same thing. But of course, when you see this expansion over here on your left, that's basically what it looked like when we got there. So it was pretty wide open. And this happened quick. I've dealt with bridges for 20-some years, and I've never seen one fall apart this quickly. The concrete, of course, concrete a lot of times don't give you a whole lot of warning when it fails, if any at all. But when it starts to fail, the failure rate is slow enough you can get in there and do something to repair it. Off-peak hours that doesn't impact traffic. But this situation here, we sent our crews up under the bridge. We had Span One, which is a private company here locally that has come out and offered to help us, and we're thankful for them, and Bremen Construction also. They've helped us this morning, and they will continue to help us to get this open as soon as possible. But we took the truck up under the bridge, and what we found was that there's these, we call them shim plates, and there's several of them, and they look like this here. They're real thin plates with two holes, and they're stacked one on top of another. Sometimes they're different thicknesses, but basically approximately this thick. There's several of those, and there's bolts that go down through those. And what you use those for on an expansion joint like this is to get your roadway grade. You don't want on your expansion joint a dip, and you don't want a hump. You want it to be even across that expansion joint. So several of these are stacked on top of each other until you reach that approximate grade of your roadway. Here's a bolt, the end of the bolt, and what happened, we think, is one of these stacks of shims, one of the bolts was rusted and it probably broke or fell off, and the other one broke and fell off, and at that point, the rest of the shims weren't strong enough to hold it, and the joint, what our construction superintendent saw when he got there, it was shaking back and forth, and it just unraveled the whole expansion joint from one edge of the road to the other. We've got crews in there, and we're going to get this done as quick as possible. We can't have I-64 shut down for any length of time at all. But in the next couple of days, I'm thinking 48 hours, we'll try to have it back open. I think that's a good conservative estimate. If we can get it done sooner than that, we'll get it done sooner, but there's a lot of unknowns when we start tearing into this. We don't know what we're going to get into. It may be a bigger task than what we see now. Another thing is the weather. Of course, we're supposed to get some colder temperatures tonight, maybe snow. Colder temperatures, when you're pouring concrete, it slows down how fast your concrete sets up. So if we get some delays on the concrete setting up, of course that'll eat into our time. But we will get this open and finished and complete as soon as possible. We're working with local law enforcement. They've been a big help to us. Of course, with the interstate down there at peak volume traffic, you know, it's almost at its capacity now. And we're shutting the interstate down, and we're overloading these detour routes. But of course, that bridge is scheduled to be replaced. It's awarded to a contractor, and they're doing the early stage work in the construction process of getting that bridge replaced, and another bridge to go westbound also, and a lot of overpasses down there. So this bridge will be replaced here in a couple of years. Of course, we've been down there all day, and we're tearing things out, and the more we tear out, the more we're learning about what's going on. So we do want to keep you posted. You know, you guys are, you know, I always feel like you're our partners for our state agencies. I mean, it's a way for us to communicate with the taxpayers out there, a way for us to let people know how their tax money is being spent, the way to let them know what's going on. If they're disrupted, they know why they're disrupted, and we want to be as transparent with you and open as possible. And we'll be in communication with you. You know, we may even have another press conference if it's needed, or if there's interest. But we do want to keep you aware if we do move into any delays, or that 48-hour estimate is prolonged. We will definitely let you know, so you can let the taxpayers and the public know. The DOH is going to monitor all the intersections on these side roads throughout Friday rush hour, and we'll adjust as needed. You know, things like this come out of the blue, and you don't have any warning. You just got to react, and sometimes you got to tweak those things. We've already tweaked some of our message boards and our signing down there in the area. You know, just to make things move a little more efficiently than what they were initially. Like I said, we got Brayman Construction. They're actually, the contractor as a joint venture was awarded the replacement of this structure, so they're on site with us. We were lucky to have them there nearby, so they were there with us probably about an hour and a half after we showed up. I guess that's, well, we did notify, you know, work through our Transportation Management Center, and they have coordinated this incident with the state of Ohio and the state of Kentucky, their transportation agencies, to try to detour traffic and eliminate the volume of traffic that's coming through on I-64. You know, to try to help us out. So that's appreciated out of our state partners in Ohio and Kentucky. With that, if anybody's got any questions, we'll... Yeah, if you'd like. Yeah, that'd be great.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Foster. I'd like to mention that we've brought these boards in just to represent that we're making every attempt through our message boards and changeable message signs to begin alerting drivers before they even enter the state. But then once they enter the state, especially our truck drivers and heavy hauls would have the option of going down US 52 to Williamson and then using Corridor G to get back to Charleston. We also have West Virginia Route 2 that connects from Huntington through Point Pleasant, which would include US 35, and then reconnects back to I-77 up in the Ripley area. So we're encouraging any drivers that can negotiate those routes to use those routes as available. We've also set up changeable message signs at each one of the exits coming through the area. We have changeable message signs at the West Virginia 10 exit, at the the West Virginia 2 connector that's right there at Barbersville. Then we further have signage at Milton, Hurricane, Tays Valley, and then again in the Scott Depot Road area, recommending drivers that the road is closed at mile marker 44. The last available exit is mile marker 44. So we're trying to get the information out early, allow folks to make those decisions before they get on the interstate. We're putting signs at the entrance ramps. Our folks in both District 1 and District 2 have gone above and beyond get out and try to manage the traffic. We have stationed county and local employees at each intersection to monitor if there's any problems, to notify the police or anybody else that's needed. So we're trying to minimize delay. There will be delay, but we're trying to minimize it and provide so that if there are problems, they're quickly answered. People aren't having to call to look for things. We have people stationed at each one of the critical areas. And as Tracy said, we'll take any questions. That's just a real quick overview of what we're trying to do to manage the traffic eastbound on 64.
I will just add real quick before we take any questions. Please make the public aware that, of course there will be delays, but stress the importance of being patient. I know this is a very drastic situation, closing one of the busiest interstates in the state, but patience and planning ahead goes a long way. We want to keep our traveling public safe. We want to keep our workers safe. And we don't want someone getting in a hurry and making a split-second decision that, could take somebody's life or hurt somebody. So please stress that. It's very important. People get agitated and they don't think sometimes and react, but sometimes that does permanent damage to people. So I'd appreciate that. But with that, I'll take any questions anybody's got.
Is any part of this bridge ever in any danger of a catastrophic failure?
No. None of our open bridges are ever in danger of catastrophic failure, and I say that because we've got a bridge safety inspection program. People go out and they monitor these bridges and they look at these bridges, and we know structurally how sound each bridge is. And we're able to get in there. It's like I mentioned to somebody the other day, it's like going to the doctor for a checkup. We go to the doctor for the checkup. Sometimes he refers us to a specialist to get worked on. And that's how we do these bridges. We do bridge safety inspections, see what type of condition they're in, and then if they need repaired, we repair them. In this particular situation, I pulled the last inspection report this morning, or this afternoon, shortly after lunch, and there was no deficiency here. So this has happened quickly. And as loose as this joint, if you lose a stack of these shims in one area of that joint, and you imagine that joint shaking back and forth at a very high frequency, it's not going to take long to break concrete out like he's saying. So things like this, as long as we're on Earth, and we live in a physical environment, there's a lot of unknowns out there. And, even driving to work, people get in their cars and drive to work and they don't think anything about it, but you take a risk in anything you do, physically, anything can happen, and that's what's happened here. But as far as the overall structural integrity of this bridge, it's absolutely safe. Now, that's not to say you're not going to get a pothole. That's not going to say that an expansion joint's not going to come out. Those kind of things, which impact traffic drastically, but I have no reservation in saying the bridge is perfectly safe.
So when was the last inspection?
I'm thinking it was the summer of 18, if I remember right. It's been so busy I wasn't really looking at the date, but I think it was the summer of 18.
Do you have any idea how much this will cost?
Not right now. We're working with a couple private entities. It kind of mixes the water up a little bit, muddies the water. So if our folks were doing it, I could kind of ballpark it, but right now I couldn't tell you.
Is DOT coordinating with law enforcement to have officers in place tomorrow morning at heavy intersections for traffic?
Yes, absolutely. We just left our director of traffic engineering, and she's aware of all that, and they're monitoring these situations. They've not only got the screen that we saw here up, but they've got several screens over there at different intersections and portions of the road, and they're monitoring that 24 hours a day. And they'll adjust that accordingly.
So what do you need to do to get it ready to go again, to reopen?
Excuse me?
What all do you need to do to get it reopened?
Well, basically, I'm glad you asked that. I forgot I was going to describe that. What this is going to take, can you put the pictures back up here? Is that possible? Let's see. Let me get this thing.
And while Tracy's getting oriented, I want to go back to the question about law enforcement. We have coordinated with law enforcement. We're not necessarily going to have an officer at every intersection you encounter, but they are aware, they have patrolmen been notified of the areas where we're concerned. We will have DOH employees at the major intersections to monitor them actively. So it is a coordinated effort, but you will not necessarily have a police officer at every intersection.
Yeah, we'll adjust our, it's finite resources, and we'll adjust them and use them as efficiently as we can with our local police. If you look at the photo on the right, you see the tooth dam, and we call it tooth dams because, and sometimes they call them finger joints, it's kind of like that. It allows the bridge to expand and contract, and those teeth go in together just like your fingers do. These shims that I was showing you are right under that, and they support that tooth dam. So basically what we are going to have to do based on the information we've got now is to cut the concrete. Of course, a lot of it has come out. The tooth dam shaking and the anchorage that goes back into that concrete has taken a lot of that out. But our plan right now is to go back on that side of the tooth dam and about 1 foot, remove all that concrete, and then we'll have to go back under the bridge with plywood, form all that up, have carpenters form all that formwork up, and then put rebar in it, and then reform the concrete. And that's from one curb to the other, that bridge. And while we're in there, and we've got access equipment, the bucket truck that a lot of people have seen on our bridge inspections, it's not always here in this area. We've got 3 of them, 3 of those trucks, and they travel statewide. Today, we didn't have one. The nearest one was Lewisburg. So luckily, Span 1 was able to come in. They were right down the road, and they were able to come in and give us access to this as soon as possible. But while we've got that truck, he said we've got it as long as we need it. And what we're going to do is go in and check the rest of these expansions and see if there's anything we can observe on this bridge that would cause this to happen again. We won't be proactive, and we won't go above and beyond in what we're doing here, and we want to go above and beyond in allowing traffic to flow as efficiently as it can, which is going to overload our roadways. We know that. I-64 is overloaded every morning, but we're going to put things in place as much as we can to allow the traffic to go as efficiently as humanly possible. So hopefully that explains a little bit about the repair. Is there any clarification needed on that, or does anybody have any other questions?
I have another question.
Yeah.
We had a bridge failure at the Oakwood Road exit a couple weeks ago,
Right,
and now we have this.
right.
What's your overall feeling about the health and general nature of the bridges in West Virginia? So the last inspection for this was 18. Does that need to be accelerated? These things are getting older.
Yeah, well, we've got internal policies that dictate what frequencies our bridges are inspected. The federal government mandates every 2 years. Very rare circumstances on brand new bridges, we can go 4 years, but not often. But we've got internal policies that we reduce that frequency if we need to. And we do. Certain situations are written in stone. If it meets this criteria, you inspect every 12 months. But we actually take it a step further. Just because it's a policy doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So sometimes when we look at a bridge, we look at it and we say, okay, we feel this bridge is in good condition, fair condition, poor condition, but how long can we ensure it's safe before we look at it again? If our children were crossing this bridge, if our parents were crossing this bridge, if our sister was crossing this bridge, when would we want to look at that bridge again to make sure it's safe? In a lot of cases, our families are crossing these bridges, so we'll downgrade it to whatever it needs to be downgraded to, what we feel comfortable with. But to get to your question on the Fort Hill Eugene Carter Bridge and this bridge, I don't think, the thing with concrete and rock, as you see, we've had a lot of rock slides, with steel, you know, concrete and steel, when it heats up and it cools down, it either expands or contracts, it's moving. That's why there's expansion joints in. Because you're butting up against a road that doesn't move. So you gotta have expansion joints. And when you have freeze-thaw cycles like we've had in the last few weeks, the last couple of weeks, and sometimes they were pretty significant. You know, when you've got 20 degrees one day and 50 or 60 degrees the next day, then back to 20, when you go through those cycles of freeze and thaw, it's very detrimental to any kind of material property. And that's my thoughts, that's my theory. I could be wrong, but when you look at this bridge and you look at Fort Hill and the previous inspection reports, what we've seen, you know, both of those bridges were inspected very recently. And you look at what was seen and you talk to the inspectors that inspected those, and now you look just a short time later and you're seeing things like this. I believe, you know, it's a lot of the freeze-thaw cycles. I really do.
Was the Fort Hill Bridge the same thing with an expansion joint, or was it something else?
No, it was beside an expansion joint. It was beside an expansion joint, but it was actually a failure of the actual deck, basically a hole. And we have holes form, isolated holes form on bridges. You know, that's potholes, you know, just thin holes, and we try to get out patch so that people don't bust a tire. But this particular one was the first full depth hole we ever had on Fort Hill. And what we're doing in that situation is we're going in, last Friday we went under the bridge, and we delineated areas that we thought we might have this problem with in the future. You know, again, we want to go above and beyond, and we want to do everything we can, you know, to prevent this. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is shut a bridge down to somebody. They're there for people to use. They're there for the public. They bought them. They paid for them. It's there for their use to get where they're going. And so we want to be proactive in this and go in and try to delineate these areas and fix them on our schedule. Because as we talked about on Fort Hill, the bridges, they don't know what time it is. They don't have a watch. They can't say, well, it's rush hour, I'm going to wait to cause problems. And in most cases, they're going to give you the worst problem at the worst inopportune time it can happen. And so we want to be proactive and get ahead of it and fix, schedule repairs on our schedule instead of the bridge's schedule. So, yeah.
I have one more question for you. We have a sad, tragic history in West Virginia with bridges. You guys are well aware of that, I know. So how do you characterize where we are statewide? How confident you can be about the bridges that we're crossing? Make sure that nothing just incredibly horrible will happen.
Right. Well, somebody asked me one time, they said, what's the most unsafe bridge you've got? We don't have unsafe bridges that are open to traffic. The way we treat bridges, if they're unsafe, if we think they're unsafe, structurally unsafe, we post a bridge for a weight restriction if it doesn't meet legal road loads. And if that weight restriction is maintained and obeyed, it's perfectly safe for that. We've got numbers to back us up, science to back us up. We've got great bridge safety inspectors that go out and diagnose these bridges on an interval that's strictly mandated by the federal government. In rare cases, sometimes like back to the doctor analogy, you know, the doctor comes in and has to tell a family there's nothing else we can do. We've done everything we can and there's nothing else. It's just a matter of time. When we do that on a bridge, we close it. And sometimes it hinders a lot of people, you know, in their daily travels. Sometimes it's a significant detour that may not be the best road, but we're not going to put somebody on an unsafe bridge. There's no way, we can't do it. And Silver Bridge is why my job's here. Silver Bridge and the loss of those 46 people down there created the whole bridge safety inspection nationwide. And we take that serious. There's not a day goes by we don't think about the Silver Bridge. And we work every day and everything we do to prevent that. So as far as overall structural stability and soundness, there's none open to traffic. And I will add, these weight restrictions on bridges, I know everybody sometimes will go down the road and the speed limit's 55 and they say, well, there's nobody around, I'll go 60, nobody will catch me. A weight restriction on the bridge shouldn't be looked at in those same terms. If it says 15 tons, that's what we've got the numbers to back it up, saying, okay, if you stay at 15 tons or below, this bridge will carry you across. If you're 16, 17 tons, don't look around and say, well, there's nobody looking, I'm going to sneak across, because you may not make it. These weight restrictions are very, very important. They're there for people's safety and to make sure that we can provide a functional bridge. It's giving people information, hey, if you follow these rules, this bridge is fine for you to use, so people, need to obey those.
I'll just, kind of two things. We have a quality bridge inspection program that's recognized by the federal government as being a bridge program in good standing. The public should be confident in our bridges when they cross them, obey the posted weight limit signs, and have confidence in our bridges. There should be no concerns to the public of crossing the bridges. The other thing, and I'll apologize for taking a text during this, they're actually asking for Tracy to come back out to the bridge. So if we could conclude, we'll take maybe one or two, but we need to go. Anybody good?
Can I just ask one last thing?
Sure.
People might be a little nervous going westbound just because it is one bridge. Can you just briefly describe why they shouldn't be nervous crossing westbound?
Yes.
Well, that bridge is one bridge.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. And we call them truss lines, upstream and downstream truss lines. And you go through that, okay? The road's in the middle on a bridge deck. The overall truss, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, sure, there's deficiencies. There's deficiencies in me, but I can function. But this steel is on the bridge deck, and the bridge deck is separated. So this expansion joint is completely isolated from westbound. The thing I would add about going westbound is be aware and be alert. The person in front of you may see something over there and slam their brakes on in 65, 70 mile an hour traffic. That could happen. It happens. It's happened in front of me. So people be aware and watch the people in front of you, beside you, around you, because that's what I would worry about going westbound, is the vehicles around me and what they're going to do when they see maybe lights blinking or people working or something.
Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you all for your time today.
Hey, can we get copies of those pictures mailed to us, Captain?
That,
Yeah.
Hey, guys, it's just, TV, let me see it's just, and I'll send them